Well, hello everyone. As one of my favorite podcasters would say, welcome boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us and welcome to Quantum Nurse Freedom International live stream. And with me, I am very excited and happy that I am joined by my colleagues in QRA, which stands for Quantum Reflex Analysis, and we are also Vastu practitioners. And these people are, for me, the masters QRA practitioners because they've been around over a decade. Okay. So that's a lot of years. And we continue to learn because there's never ending changes in doing the QRA. And as you all see, don't we all look radiant? Because we practice what we teach, okay? And that's the most important thing also. So we're here so that we can share with you like this Vastu. Because for me, and QRA, it's like a hidden secret. And how many, trust me, all of us have been through many nutraceutical companies, many journeys, different kinds of diet, because that's what we love. I'm passionate from way when we were still young. So we went through all different health challenges, but here we are, we continue. And I'm telling you, we look radiant. You won't guess our ages, okay? But when you talk to us in private consultation, we could tell you. And most of you will say, hey, my goodness, how do we reach to your age? Okay, so here are the names of my friends and loved ones, and I call them loved ones because we do like a family in a quantum reflex analysis practice. And thanks to, we want to give a shout out just to the late Dr. Robert Marshall of PRL who put us together, okay? And of course, with the leadership also of Dr. Linda Forbes, we thank you for continuing taking care of the company that Dr. Marshall left for us and all the knowledge that he endorsed to us. So here we are, we're pursuing, keeping that tradition. So I have Danielle, Zanzarov, okay, and I have Julie E. And I'm going to just let them introduce themselves. And of course, next to me is George Chirco. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little bit, and then we'll move on to some practical theories and applications and what's the definition of QRA and VASU. And I'll just let all of us, have a great conversation like as if you've never heard of QRA before. All right. But for those of you who know about it, thank you for being with us and do share. If this resonates to you, definitely share it because you know that's important. Okay. So maybe I should just let the gentleman speak for first.
Yeah, thank you for putting this together, Grace. Appreciate everything, and yeah, it'd be a first time, maybe a first time that we've done this on the air live. Hopefully, we'll bring a lot of information to people that want to accept it. We use it in our life. My background in this started with I'm an engineer, electrical engineer, but I've always had in younger life had some health challenges that I was looking for alternative ways to actually improve my health. Um, not through doctors. I found that going outside the traditional medicine, I found things that would help me to do that. But as I learned more, being an electrical engineer, I'm a power engineer, so I'm around ultra high voltage systems all my life. I work in substations and electrical equipment. So it's, when you're in an electrical field, once you start learning about your body and our environment, you find out there's things that we need to do to actually, if you want to call it, protect ourselves or stay healthy. And we'll go more into that as we go down there. But my background started with that. And then as my journey went through, looking for supplementation of health, I've worked a lot with the supplementation. I found PRL. And that was pretty much an eye opener to everything that I was learning. And again, like Grace had already talked about, Dr. Bob Marshall, which was basically, I would call him our mentor. He was an amazing man, and his knowledge really resonated with me and everybody on this stage that you see. And along with his wife, Dr. Forbes, she really is the one that, from an energetic point of view, basically can feel the energy. She has a special talent. So between the both of them, they came up, using quantum reflex analysis, which is a form of abort, which is a bidigital O-ring testing from Dr. Mir in New York. It's a way of doing the kinesiology testing, but we tie that into the energetics of the field around us, because it's not just about, when you start looking at your health, it's not just about what we take, what we bring in our food. We're also bombarded every day by many things around us that energetically are not good for us. So that was my background and my journey, which I resonated with, and we try to bring that into our everyday practice, myself and Grace. So with that, I'll pass over to Danielle.
Hi, guys. So Grace, I'm 21, and I'm not a day older than that, and I never will be. How's that for age?
Excellent, excellent.
So a little bit about my journey. You know, I grew up like everybody else, right? Eating McDonald's and Carvel. My brother and I, when we were little, my brother Joe used to sit on the couch and we used to beg, you know, like, Daddy, please bring home McDonald's. But I was also that little girl that was always sick and always in the doctor's office, you know, missing out on holidays and vacations and just plain old days that I wanted to be out playing with my friends, but I couldn't because it was always an asthma attack or an ear infection or something. That doctor was always coming after me with that needle for my rear end, you know? So, you know, when I got pregnant, I was going to do everything that I could to have a healthy baby. And we were in there for our 10-week sonogram appointment, me and my husband, Zeke. And they did the sonogram. And the next thing I know, this woman comes in and I don't even know who she is. But, you know, she turns to me and she said, we need to terminate your pregnancy today, or you can come back tomorrow morning. Which do you prefer? And in that moment, reality shifted, right? Because I knew from deep within that there was something wrong here, right? And I know that I needed to do something different. And in that moment, my perspective on everything changed, because I knew that it was time to start looking at things differently rather than just following what I was being told all the time. And, you know, I knew in that moment that I wasn't going to terminate the pregnancy, right? I was going to let nature take its course, and I was prepared for whatever the outcome was going to be. But my daughter is perfectly fine. She's 18 these days and off to college soon. And, you know, I thank God that I had that time to connect with myself, with my own intuition, and to know that there was something that was very off. And in knowing that, that became the start of my journey to start to really look at things differently. And you know, the more you dive into health, the more I think impassioned you become with it. I'm sure you guys have had that same experience. And, you know, I already had a glimmer of this, you know, because my grandma was really sick and she meant the world to me. And I remember one day I was sitting at her dining room table and she came in. I hadn't seen her for a while and her entire body shook. And I didn't know that there was anything wrong. I heard my mom on the phone earlier that day saying everything was fine. And I can see in that moment, you know, straight into the kitchen and all the pill bottles lined up on the counter. And so I was like, there's something wrong here. And so I started that discovery. And the more you learn, the more you make changes for yourself, the more you experience those changes, the more you're like, oh my gosh, what else is there? And I remember when I first started in practice about 16 years ago, I started using Pure Lab supplements and I was like, you know, I'm in practice, but there's something really missing for me. Like, okay, so a lot of people are deficient in vitamin D. Fine, or people have diabetes and you could open up a book on herbs or natural remedies, or, you know, Box is my favorite, you know, that's like a Bible, the Box Natural Remedies book, you know, and you could pull up, you know, 15, 20, 25, 30 different supplements in there and be like, oh, okay, well, all of these are supposed to help with diabetes or high blood pressure or whatever someone's dealing with. But I said to myself, something isn't right. Like, how do I know exactly what works for somebody specifically and how much of that thing they actually need to allow their body to heal? And I remember I was listening to something at one point that came across my pathway. And the minute I heard the explanation of quantum reflex analysis, I was like, that's it. That is the exact thing. I was looking at all sorts of things. I was looking at, NAET and looking at this and looking at that. And I was like, nope, this is exactly what it is that I'm looking for. And I haven't turned back since. And the truth is there's beauty and magic in quantum reflex analysis in QRA, right? The ability to be able to work with a client, which is what we do on a daily, right? The ability to work with a client and be able to hone in and understand what's happening, allowing the body to have that communication and tap into that is brilliant, I think. And so I think we are really blessed with the knowledge and the resource that we have with QRA.
Yeah, as Dr. Marshall would say, Danielle, remember, what if you have energy eyes, you can never undo it, right?
And that's just it, is using those energy eyes to really tap into and understand what's happening. And we're talking quantum reflex analysis with the physical body. But when we talk about Vastu and the energetics of our environment and our space, we apply those same principles, right? And we still use those same energy eyes, because like you guys all know, and for those of you listening, every single thing has its own frequency. It has its own resonance, right? And being able to identify and work with that resonance is what begins to create and shift the changes, right? It lets us know what's good, what's bad, what works for our body, what doesn't work for our body, so there's a lot of beauty in that. And so I think once you start to see that magic and experience that magic, there's no turning back from there.
Exactly.
Sometimes you wish you didn't know, but that's okay.
Let's hear from Julie. Julie, introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Julie E. I don't really have a story like everybody else. I was interested in fitness and nutrition as a teenager, working at Jack LaLanne, my first job, and just devoured every book there was on nutrition, because there were like 2 back then. And I read every cover to cover, every single fitness and muscle and fitness and whatever nutrition magazine there was. They were only like 3 from Weider Publications. And that was the start of it. I just wanted to be, I went at it from more of a fitness perspective and partied my way through college and did the usual. And then was like, what am I going to do with my life? And somehow I figured out to be a nutritionist. So I went to the #1 school in the country, UNC at Chapel Hill. I got my master's in public health and became a registered dietitian. And I was the heaviest that I ever was. And I started working in New York City. And then I basically had chronic fatigue. Didn't realize it because there were no diagnoses. I never went to the doctor. My family never took me to the doctor. And we ate semi-normal also, but not really a lot of fast food. And so I just was like trying to figure everything out, and I just wanted to learn about vitamins. That's what happened. And someone introduced me to someone else who came into my office in New York City. I was working at Chelsea Piers teaching nutrition and fitness, and they just ended up inviting me to go to a conference. He said, he rattled off all this information, like out of like New England Journal of Medicine. I was like, well, why do you need more than 500 milligrams of vitamin C? Or why do you really need a multivitamin? Like, explain it to me. And he was like rattling off, well, in the July 5th issue of New England Journal on page 232. And he just like rattled stuff off. And I was blown away by him. And he offered, go to this conference next weekend. I'll set it up for you for free, and then we'll talk. And I walked in, and within 5 minutes, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, finally, people that know more than me about nutrition. And it was the Institute for Functional Medicine and Jeffrey Bland. So I spent the next 20 years studying functional medicine and starting to integrate that into a small practice. And then when I moved out of New York to California, I was just looking for a practitioner that did something cool. And I found someone that did some energy testing, and he would put you on like 25 different products. And I was like, well, this is a lot of supplements. But he's doing this testing. And then one day he said, you should come to this conference. And it was the QRA conference. And that was it for me. I never looked back. And to date, now I know that I can help every single person that walks into my office, regardless of their problems, regardless of the stories they want to tell me. Well, yesterday, I worked with a 50-ish-year-old man who just spent 7 months going to medical doctors. And he almost didn't even want to come see me because he's like, what are you going to do that can really help? And halfway into the session, he was like, I actually feel good right now. And that's the hope. I'm getting like teary-eyed over it, just the joy of helping people find hope and heal their bodies when no one else can. And it's not usually a medical condition. And I always tell them, whenever the doctors can't figure it out, thank God it's not a disease. It's a nutritional problem, emotional, energetic, or it's coming from a scar in your body or your EMFs in your environment. So I feel empowered continuously that I can heal everyone that crosses my path and help them move forward in their health and teach them what they should expect when they go see another practitioner. Like, don't settle for anything less. And just to, tout the O-ring and QRA a little bit more, I was introduced to kinesiology, like this thing, and I was trying to do that. And I was like, this doesn't work. I have absolutely no confidence in it. And from the moment I learned the O-ring, I've never thought anything but this is exactly right and accurate every single time. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at in my practice. My child is about to be 19 and he has never been to a medical doctor. He's never missed a day for school being ill ever, from preschool through his first year in college. The teachers, the sports coaches, they used to call to tell me what a delight my kid was. He's never been on a medicine ever. And he's also never broken a bone. If he's injured himself in a sport, he healed within a day. And I mean, one baseball coach wrote me a 2-page letter of what a delight my child was. And I was like, that's because he is not drugged. He's not on drugs. He's just healthy. Like, that's how all the kids are supposed to be. And so, that's what I hope for the children of today. And I have helped bring many children into this world, to infertile women, using the O-ring and nutrition and QRA and some of the biohacking tools I use. And I treat many, many kids and families, grandparents, like nephews, everyone. The whole family has come to see me. Most of my clients never leave. They've been working with me for 20 plus years. And I have my practice. I'm celebrating my 25th year right now. And I've been doing nutrition and health for 38 years. And a few years ago, about 10 years ago, actually, I had the telomere test before it was popular. And this is just after doing a lot of mud packing and big introduction to QRA. I was in my 40s and I had the telomeres of an 18-year-old. And then a few years later, I did the telomere test again, and I had the telomeres of a 12-year-old. And that has happened twice. So talking about our actual cellular age, those are mine, 12. I'm sticking with it for the rest of my life. But legal enough to, drink should I desire one. So that's where I'm at. So I appreciate the QRA, the Vastu. I could just tell you a tiny little one more thing about environment, since we're going to dive into Vastu and the energetics of your environment. And I'm always telling people that your environment absolutely affects how you feel. We all know that there's the people that are hoarders that get sick. It turns out that over the last 7 years, I was just starting to have all these random little issues in my joints, and I would just be tired. And I was actually like easily angered and stirred. Fast forward, I realized a few months ago that I had lived in a house that was secreting mold and all the mycotoxins, probably my child's entire life, 17 years. And the heater for the past 10 years was giving off carbon monoxide poisoning. So I have just moved out of that environment in February, and my whole entire body has changed from not being in that physical location. And all of the nutrition and the mud packing and the QRA and the Vastu that I have been doing over the years was the reason I didn't know that the house was so toxic, because I was so healthy. There would just be these random little things, and then they would go away, and then they would come back. And I finally did some lab testing and realized that I was the winner of 18 different mycotoxins and mold poisoning literally everywhere. And so I'm detoxing from it now, and literally just not sleeping in the house for 3 weeks straight, everything changed. And most of us never go on vacation for 3 weeks. So 1 week vacation, you come back and you're like, I feel so great. You visited someone, or you were away, or you were relaxed. And then over time, all these little things crept back in. And it was just like a toe would hurt, or a knee, or an elbow. And I'm like, wow, I'm really having some joint stuff. But the whole time it was just toxins from my environment. So your environment is a huge deal. And I'll pass it back on that note.
Thank you. Thank you for all your stories. These stories need to be told, especially when in our physical self, it's being reflected, it's being manifested. And then, of course, in our career, in our relationships. And I think they will only know how old we are when we start saying how old the children are. Or when we start saying, oh, I like that song. Then they will say, oh, that was whichever era is that song. But the proof is that we are our own, like we are our own proof. If they want evidence, talking about evidence based, this is the evidence base. So we present to you, to our audience, our family, and even friends who still don't, maybe are confused about what we do, then this is the evidence. So George.
Yeah, it's interesting listening to stories, but I think we should go into Vastu. But I guess just one little thing, talking on top of Julie, I also had chronic fatigue. This goes back in the 70s, so you can tell how old I was. But I went to every doctor you name. It was like one doctor after another. They even sent me to psychiatrists at the time. And it wasn't a psychiatrist. It wasn't anything wrong with me mentally. And it wasn't, it was something going on. And back then they didn't know what it was. They called it Epstein-Barr virus. Now they call it chronic fatigue syndrome. And I was going to everything. They even gave me Valium, took it, threw it down the toilet. I just wasn't getting better. And I used to bowl a lot, but I bowled with a person that was into metaphysics and in a form of, if you want to call it Vastu, but he was all about the environment, third eye. And he told me, he said, George, you should start taking vitamins. I said, what do I got to lose? I've been a doctor going on for 3 years. I was sick. You know what? I took what he told me, and in a week, I started feeling better. So I became like a believer. So my journey started going back to the 60s and 70s. But that was like an eye opener. And I can tell you many other stories that took me down a path that we're on now that are good. And one of the things that we started doing, me and Grace, was we started learning a little bit more about what's around us, the environment, about the energetics. And we started studying a field called Quantum Morphogenetic Physics. We ended up both getting our master's, Grace going for a PhD, but it really is a form of galactic, an offshoot of galactic science, which if you look into a little bit, it's about the energy around us, that we're all, like Danielle said, vibration, but it's not just vibration, it's also oscillations too. So it's a lot more to the science, not just, we all talk vibrations, but it's much more than that. It has to do with field and around us that affects what does it affect? It affects our DNA. So if you start looking at our DNA and what our DNA is, it's everything. How we got there. And when we was talking with Dr. Bob Marshall, he talked about Fritz Albert Pop, which, did the experiments and found out that how do our cells communicate? They communicate by light, and it was light. They thought he was crazy, and they almost ran him out of the scientific community. But in the end, found that it was. So what is light? Light is life energy, life force. Everything around us is a life force around it, even a rock. If you can believe it, there's morphogenetic fields that contain everything. So it has to do with our vibrations, our oscillations, and what causes that, what causes blockage in that, right? If you look around us nowadays, especially, we're bombarded by everything. I'm around high voltage electrical, which is, we have a lot of the fields around us, but you have cell towers. They talk about 5G now, if you want to go down that path. And then we're not the only ones talking about this. You talk to Dr. Klinkard. He's a doctor that really is focused on a lot of energetics and says a lot of our diseases are related to that. And he's had some things that he does that actually helps clear those fields, right? So when you start talking about the energy, and we were talking about, that's where we go into Vastu. What does it in? Even if you go back into ancient history, I'm talking ancient history, the pyramids, what were the pyramids? What were they there? If you look at them, they're all on ley lines on the earth. The earth has a whole concept of ley lines, which are energy lines that energy flows through. Some people can feel it. Dr. Forbes, she's gifted. She could actually feel the energy flow through these ley lines. So, if you actually happen to be on a ley line, a lot of energy is there. And sometimes, a lot of that stuff is, I would say, is interfered with stuff going on around us, right? And we go through scanners all the time. Our food, anything you get over Amazon is scanned how many times? All kinds of scanners. So everything gets encrypted. They call encrypted, right? It starts causing distortions in our energy field, right? Which are vibrations. How do we clear those distortions? You can go very deep into it. It's a whole science around this, and it basically gets very deep. How do you clear how do you fix activate your DNA? Our 12-strand DNA. Most of us only activate 2 strands of DNA, but how do we actually improve on that? What do we need to do? Well, everything we take, and obviously food, obviously our emotions have a lot to do with that. Our emotionals, we got to clear a lot of miasms that are within us, things that we picked up from our parents and other things we go through life. A lot of this clearing. So, we have the tools to actually help us with this, right? And it's an ongoing thing. It's not like you can just fix it and then walk out the door and everything's good again. It does not happen that way. So we're constantly bombarded by this, and it's getting worse. It's getting much worse around us. We won't even mention the word COVID, but let's not go down that path. But the Vastu is an important part. So what we've learned is the tools that we can use to help those energetic fields, to help our house, how to balance our house. And a lot of this actually is the child of they talk about feng shui, right? Vastu is beyond that. Feng shui. It has to do with even shapes of our house. If you look at architecture, even architecture that's designed a certain certain format is laid out sometimes in a design that actually is good for our energy, right? It has to do with not the tree of life, but it has to do with other things that are out there. So there's actually even what they call geomancies, which are, people call them sacred symbols, and we'll show you some of them. But those actually have encrypted mathematics in them. What a geomancy calls sacred symbol. When you look at it, it's encrypted with certain mathematics that if you can learn how to take that into your pineal gland, bring that into your cellular level, it can actually help you help your energy, help your field to actually activate some of your DNA. But with that, I'll open it up and we can talk about the different tools that we have available. We relate a lot of this to QRA, because if you do this and you start vastuing your house to create good energy in your house, your field, even in your car when you're driving, because especially if you're driving an electric car, this is one thing you really should take a look at, doing a Vastu on if you're driving an electric car. They sound like great. It's good for, they say, I won't comment on the details of this and what people believe, but, if you're an electric car, they think it's great, we're saving gas, but what does it do to your energetics in your body? What does it do to your DNA? Russia, and I won't go too far into the science of it, but if you look at the Russians done a lot of work in this area. They talk about our DNA being activation. They say it's not chemically at all. It doesn't have to do with our nutrition. It has to do a lot with sound. Sound and vibration has more to do with it, our health and our activation of our DNA, and how we're healthy. So I'll turn it over to anybody else who wants to talk. I don't want to take the time away from everybody else. I can show you a couple of things, but I'll turn it over to Danielle or Julie if they want to jump in.
I just want to mention where some of this came for me. It was probably about 1999 or 2000, and the first flip phone came out, and I couldn't wait to get it. And then I spent 3 hours at the MCI store, and then the phone was electrocuting me, and I couldn't hold it. I was like holding it by the edges. And so further investigation, I learned about EMF. And that was the first time that I used remediation on my phone for EMF. and it's a little sticker that you put on the back of your phone, and it took the electrocution out of the phone, and then I can actually use the phone. And so I always tell people this because now today there's 20,000 or more studies that tell you how harmful the EMF is. But I've been doing this for 25 years. It's not brand new. It's not a new science whatsoever at all. And when we put now we have this Q disc, it's called, and it's really flat. It goes right on the center of your device. And when I have some people put it on, they're like, oh my gosh, my arm doesn't hurt anymore. Like, many people are sensitive and notice it right away. And what I will tell you is that when you remediate, you can afford the $1,000 or $1,300 phone. You can afford the little sticker. I just tell people you build it in with every new device you have. It's just a no-brainer. But this today with the 5G, and now we're up to 6G actually. And when you remediate your devices with this sticker, it doesn't just block out the harm that's coming from your phone. It actually heals your body. So your weakest link on your body, if we use the QRA and the O-ring, and let's say this part of your body tests weak, when you bring the phone into your pocket or near you, this part of your body tests strong, without supplements, without food, without anything else. It actually heals you. So the way that I try to explain it in the simplest layman's terms is, in chemistry, there's something called an isomer. It's like a mirror image. So pretend that this keeps all of the workings of the phone, but it just turns it into a healing energy. That's it. It's really simple. And if you have a phone or a laptop or a tablet, get a sticker on your device if you like feeling good, because it's really that easy. It's a sticker. It's a no-brainer. And we have them, all of us, I know for sure, every device. I'm around 3 devices right now, and every single one of them is remediated. Plus my home where I live is remediated. So it's not hard. It's not woo-woo. It's literally factual. If you go to my website, there's an EMF page, and you can download the truth about cell phones. And if I could figure out my sharing screen, I could show you a picture of that. But let me try to share that. I was having a hard time before we started because I'm new at this, but let's see. Why won't you? It says I have no slides. Try again. Yeah, now I feel pressured. I'm not going to find it, but I will.
While you're looking for it, maybe
Well, let me just tell you, there's a woman named Devra. She's an expert in EMF, and I just took screenshots. It's Dr. Devra Davis. In 2015, she has a 2-hour lecture on YouTube, and I just took snapshots from her lecture that shows you that when you put the phone next to an 8-year-old's head, 90% of their head is getting radiated. So I know you want to see these visuals, but go ahead, Grace, and then I'll see if I can pull it up.
No, yeah, while you're looking at that, and Julie, if Danielle, you have anything to share while he's looking for what she's going to do for the screen share?
Yeah, I think everything you guys are saying is spot on. And I do think a lot of the EMF stuff is one of those severe, and I say severe intentionally, severe hidden dangers when it comes to our health, especially given the amount of time that we all spend around these electronic devices. If we are not remediating those devices, we are putting our health at risk. And there is plenty of science out there now that documents all of this and documents the impact, and we're not just talking about looking at the blue light on the screen, because that's a whole other ball of wax that we could get into. But just the electromagnetic frequencies are enough to interfere with the normal function and operation of our cells and our body's processes. So, one of the beautiful things I think about the Vastu that we all practice is the incorporation of the remediation of the electromagnetic frequencies. So I know one of the things that we all do is remediate homes and spaces to have ideal resonance and ideal frequency and ideal energetics in that space. But all the devices that we carry around with us, having them remediated is just as important. And we're lucky that we've got the Q discs available to us, because, this is something I do want to point out, because it's very important, because I have a lot of clients that come into me all the time. They come in and they ask, oh, yes, and I say, is your phone remediated? Yes, my phone is remediated. And it's like, well, what do you have? And they found something on the internet or something on Amazon or something somewhere. And the beauty with QRA is we can actually test and assess whether or not something is actually effective. And I think that there is a lot of stuff out there on the market today that is supposed to help and protect you from electromagnetic frequencies, and they're not doing that. And so I think it's really important for your listeners, Grace, to understand that you want to invest in your health, and you want to make sure that what you're investing in is actually doing what it says it's going to do. Because in my practice and my testing of many stuff, and I go to conferences and test all these things they have at these fairs and conferences and stuff, and many of the things don't actually test well. It's the same thing for different devices and this and that and everything else. So we've got to be conscious consumers and make sure that what we're using is actually correcting what we think it's correcting.
And to piggyback on that, what I just think I could explain a little further, when something tests well, like when a vitamin tests well, you get a 1 + 1 = 3 effect. You get an exponential effect. It means that it matches the frequency of your body. If you're taking crappy vitamins, even if first of all, they could read really well on the label and they could be $80 at Whole Foods, but if they don't test well, you might as well eat a Dorito, because it's coming into your body, and if it's well made, it's breaking down and getting into your cells, but it's damaging your DNA. So you get a short-term benefit and a long-term decline in health. And so if you're one of those people that you took glucosamine and then you took chondroitin and then you take something else, and before you know it, you have 50 things and your joints still aren't great, it's not that you need all these products. It's that you're taking garbage and you need to clean it out and meet with someone like one of us. And I think all of us work virtually as well. I have clients all over the world, and we have energy eyes. We can test things from afar as well. Seeing is believing in person, but when you need to have everything tested. If you're using it once a year, I might not care as much, but if it is something that goes into or onto your body every single day, it is absolutely imperative that it is cell resonant, that it matches the frequency of your human body. So that way it enhances you, because you are a battery, and everything you come in contact with charges you or depletes you. And so if you think of yourself that way, you start looking at foods and things differently, and especially supplements. And I think we've already said the Amazon word here. I mean, Whole Foods is no longer Whole Foods. It is owned by Amazon. It has gone downhill, and they radiate and scan things all the time. You're not getting live sourced quality nutrition if you're buying your supplements or even your skincare on Amazon. So you really want to find a trusted source, someone that makes sense to you, that resonates with you, and ask them what they recommend, or have them test it is really the best method. Because I see a lot of people that have gone to other practitioners and they come in and they're still taking poor quality supplements. Their health might have improved, but the long-term result is not as good as it could be. So it is really important to test everything, including your environment. And when we talk about Vastu, we don't have to just test our body, and we can also test supplements. We can test air and energy and the wall and where the energy is, where your bed is, where you spend most of the time is really important to have it energetically safe and sound and therapeutic. And if you could see energy, it would be like an angel's halo. That's how I explain it. If you could see energy, it would be like an angel's halo. And then they put in a cell phone tower. So now it does this little thing when it goes that way. And then there's another and another and another cell phone tower. So if you could see energy, most of the time it's like this. And if you were sitting in front of me doing this to me, I would be like, all right, enough already. Like, it's like chaotic and stressful. It's anxiety. Why do you think anxiety is like the number one problem these days, especially with kids? Like, they're on devices, they're born with devices in their mouth, in the mom holds it in the pocket, they hold it on their belly. The second they're alive, they have baby brainy. Every restaurant I go to, every kid has an iPad like right in front of his face while the parents are talking. It is, and the energy is like this. So of course your kids are going to be depleted in minerals and depleted in cellular energy. That's what the devices themselves do. And then they're going to have this like chaotic energy. So if you want to be serene and peaceful and happy and feel normal and calm on a regular basis, and you want your kids to be like that, you absolutely have to address the energy of your building, apartment, car, house, desk. Where you spend the most time is absolutely essential. And I know we're going to dive into it more. And like I said, I'm having a hard time. It's early here and I was having a hard time sharing my screen, but I have pictures of how you can DIY we have kits that we sell of how you can DIY your car, your home, your bedroom, your devices. So I have a lot of that stuff on my website at juliehealth.com. If you need to find someone and it's one of us, great, go to my website and look for it. And I know that these people here also have amazing things to help you with.
Thank you, Julie. Yeah, it's as I always say to friends, you have to hit it in all angles. You can just resolve one issue because that one issue, whether it's health, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, or relationship, it's always many faceted, right? So hit it in all angles, and that's why we love doing the Vastu. And yeah, when I want to just add also that not everything that looks good or looks perfectly like aligned is really good for your energy too. Okay, so and now that's when the QRA comes in again. Then when the beautiful thing when you keep doing this, incorporating this in your life, whatever tools you use for yourself and for your clients, it's like at some point when you may not even have these tools, you remain strong. So you gradually become stronger and you could protect yourself. As Julie was describing that, in terms of energies like the halo, in our is in imagination and in our studies, we look at it like a big orb, a big sphere that you are being protected and that nothing energetically bad or not resonating to your body can come in. Okay, so that's what we always do. So I'd like to share, like for me, there's this QCI. Remember the QCI gadget? So I like doing this right away and just putting it every single morning. So even if it's kind of scary of we're in this world and we can't change, we can't go back to not being modern, okay, not having the AI. We can't. Everything has a good and a bad side of it. So but we're so intelligent as human beings that we create technology like this simple thing, we put it in there and it kind of like helps you to be aligned. So there are things that you can do if you know how to approach. Now you're listening to us and maybe this is like a signal for you that maybe this is the people or this is the connection, this is what I need to check also. Okay, so George, you want to show something that
Well, we have
use?
there's a couple of
Then
things
others.
that we use around the house that was tested by Dr. Forbes, and they came up with it at PRL. They sell a number of different, like the one disc that we have, Q disc, only one item. They've come up last year with other discs, which you can actually protect, like the energy coming into your house, just protecting your door with certain discs that you put around the doors. They're called geodots. They actually will be put around the door at a certain. Yep, Danielle showed them there.
Danielle is showing.
And geodots, and that will help balance certain energetic points in your house. Like your front door is critical. That's where everybody comes in. That's where energy flows in to protect the front door. It doesn't cost much to do this, so it's like maybe people don't believe in it, but what if it does? does it really hurt to do that and actually do some of these things? You know, if it's not costing a lot of money, it's people do get benefit out of it. And we with our testing, our QRA, which quantum reflex analysis, is a tool that we can use to verify this, right? Obviously, you can get other gadgets. When they first came out with the Q disc, one of the things I put on my phone, I noticed I used to have, this goes back before you can put it on a capacitive charging station. You don't need cables to charge, right? You can actually just lay your phone on it with charge. So I put the Q disc on, and as soon as I put it on there, it wouldn't charge anymore. It would block the field coming out of the charger to be able to charge it on a pad. They're better now, but in the beginning, when they first came out years ago, I know right away that was doing something, because I would, as soon as I took the disc off, I could charge it. As soon as I put it on, I couldn't charge it. Interesting. But anyway, this is like a certain type of pyramid that's designed specifically with certain angles that actually will help balance a room's energetics. We use this in a couple of small rooms, and we put this on. It's another product by PRL, and they sell a number of different pyramids of these different shapes to be able to do this. They've done a lot of testing themselves, but it's up to you to come to your environment and you test it yourself, right? So we've decided to put these around in a place, a house. And then there's another pyramid that they came up with, which is actually, you can use it for food or other things like this. When you're eating, you can actually put this pyramid, which actually has these geosinks all placed around, and these dots placed on the top. Glass, and this actually is the same thing. We put that in the room, and actually, if you can bring food into the field and so forth, and it will energetically help balance the food also, you know, as well as other things they do. So there's this is part of the Vastu, and this was not just an art piece that was thrown together. It was thought with the right angles. The angles are very important. Design, the shape of it makes all the difference. If you look at the pyramid shapes, they went through a lot of trouble building these pyramids. Guess why? There's probably a reason for that. So a lot of this technology is not new. It's ancient technology that was out there. It's just that, you know, we lost a lot of that information. There's a lot of lost information that we're connecting with, and maybe it's in our consciousness that we're actually able to connect with these fields, because a lot of it has to do with our consciousness too. But and that's something. Maybe they have some other. There's all kinds of gadgets I could show you, but I don't want to take the whole thing around. We do carry certain pennants with us too that do the same thing. That besides having the dot that we put on our phone, this is actually another. Let's see, another device that actually you can see it has design on it. It's made of a certain material.
I'm still wearing one.
And we wear these around us. Many of us have certain pennants. And you can see, I'm sure Danielle has one that she might be wearing or on her, right? Right.
And if it's not around the neck, I'm sure it's in our pocket
In
or
our
in a
pocket.
pocketbook or some maybe in the
someplace else. There's other storage spots, at least that I use.
Right.
It's a little
George?
healthier to store that there than your phone, as other people do.
Oh, yeah. George, can you, I think it's important to point out, so those geosinks that are on that pyramid are really beneficial for enhancing the energetics of that pyramid, but they are also integral for the electrical box of the home and for any of the smart meters or things like that people have on their homes. Right. And for the electrical box and the smart meters, we need to stack 2 of those geosinks, right, because those wires are going all the way throughout the house. It impacts everything. So those geosinks are really important. And you can see they're so little, they're so simple. You just have 2 of those things and you just stick them on your box, and the entire energetics of the home switches. You can actually, if you can feel it, you know, some people are sensitive. We're probably more sensitive just because we've been doing it for so long. But, you know, even, you know, I have family members who are like, oh, wow, that's, you know, I can feel that. So those geosinks are really extraordinary. And so at the very minimum, if you are in a home, you need to have those geosinks on your electric box and on your smart meter.
Yeah, in fact, the smart meter, when they came to put it on our house, we told them, you're not putting it on our house. So I think we're the only house in our whole neighborhood that doesn't have a smart meter, because you can refuse it if you'd like. You know, yes, they'll give you that. But we don't have a smart meter, we put those geosinks on our electric meter coming into the house too. And even when Dr. Marshall was around, he used to go out and help remediate homes too. So he would go out with his practitioners, and they would actually check, and people were getting all I can tell you is people couldn't sleep at night because their beds were in the wrong position. They were next to a window, which there's all these what they call poison arrow shots that come through that interrupts their sleep. So positioning your bed and everything, but they would find that by moving things around in the house and then by protecting them with different materials, that you could actually balance out the energy. People were getting better sleeping. They were actually sleeping and they were feeling better with themselves. So, like I said, some people are more sensitive than others. So, some people may say there's nothing to this, but you'll find a lot of people that are getting help by doing the correct thing. And it is all about energy, all about our energy around us. We are just big energy, ball of energy. If you go, when you start studying the science about this, our consciousness is energy. What is consciousness? And I can't go too deep into this because you'll have controversy all over. But basically, what we're learning is consciousness is scalar energy. Okay, scalar energy is what the universe created. The Tesla worked on this, and he worked on scalar energy, worked on the electrical part. But we're electrical and magnetic. Our being is electrical and magnetic. So we're also affected by the magnetic field around us too. We have to protect our magnetic field too. But if you look at consciousness and we interrupt our consciousness, that affects so many other things, right? So all these tools that we use are part of the home that you live in, the space that you live in, your personal self, because you're traveling outside your house, trying to protect that energetically, make sure our energy levels are good, because that's how our cells communicate. They communicate with our body. So if we disrupt that, we have a problem. Even our dental work, that's another whole subject with dental work. But if you look at dental work, that's the same thing. It's energy flow in our body. Dr. Jerry Tennant. If you ever go on a website, look at the YouTube, Jerry Tennant. He was a regular doctor, but turned out focusing on dentistry. And he goes through the whole explanation of why, your cell voltage levels are connected to meridians inside your body, your energetic. And that if you don't protect them or do certain things, it all goes up into your teeth, right? So even the energetics for protecting our body and energetics that's flowing in our mouth are important too.
I would like to piggyback on some of the things you just said. So even though we might be more sensitive or maybe just more aware, other people just feel sick and don't think, is it coming from my house? So people, sometimes people have heartburn or stomach aches or headaches and they're running to the doctor. There's still some level of sensitivity there. They don't feel good. They just wouldn't think what we're thinking. So I wanted to tell 3 different things right now. One of them is that the very first time I did Vastu on my home, the moldy one that I no longer live in, but I did it really thorough. Everything was perfect. The next day, we had a beehive this big. Like, I can't even fit it on the camera. We had a giant beehive. And so what it is it's like sound also, that it's like the dog whistle that we can't hear. The bees were so attracted to that environment and it helped them flourish. Of course, I had to have someone with a hazmat suit come and take them away because my child was 4 and it was a giant hive. But we never had an ant ever again in the home. And we had ant breakouts twice. This was soon after moving into this home. And so after about 5 years, we got a large television when they started to come out, and there were a few ants. So I had to go back outside and up the Vastu a little bit. We have rocks and dirt, and we have all different kinds of things that we use to do the Vastu, highly energetic particles, whatever you want to call them. We find rocks, we find dirt, we find pyramids, we find little stickers. So I went outside and I put a little more dirt and rock near the circuit breaker, which was just outside the room of the television. And then I never had another ant again. 8 years later, we got another little piece put on the circuit breaker, couple more ants, up the Vastu, never an ant again. So I want people to understand that this is a big deal, and it includes wildlife also, and it includes, like, if the only reason for you to do Vastu to your home is to get rid of ants, do it. Get rid of ants, like completely get rid of them. And so I recently moved into a new home, and the first few days I was like, I just got to get a little Vastu going. I put the geosync on the smart meter. I used the geo ground dirt along the one wall. It was the first thing I did because I was all the rush of moving. And so I did it on the wall where I sleep. And a couple of days later, the cleaning lady was like, there's a beehive. And I was like, again? And this was a little one because I only did a little Vastu. But again, no ants. So, looking at all of these things, it is a big deal about how you live and where you are. You want the healing energetics, not the harmful energetics. And then I have also, separate from PRL, I have other products. So and I can't show you the pictures, but they're on my website. It looks like a little spaceship and it has little blinking lights on it. It's called a Wi-Fi. And it puts a quantum field over a half mile. So I have one of those in my clinic, and I have 3 clients that live not too far away that also have them. So we have put this quantum field like over our entire neighborhood. And it is, since George was just mentioning, it's the scalar wave energy. That's the frequency that's in there. And this is my favorite healing tool because this is the quantum scalar wave laser. And so I'll put it on for you. You can put this anywhere on your body. And as George mentioned, light is how your cells communicate. It is light therapy, red, infrared, and violet. And when you put it on your body, it heals those cells instantly without supplements, without doing anything, without running to the doctor. I don't leave home without this. I've taken it to many countries, many various states. Football games, baseball games for kids, decreases inflammation in 4 minutes. Absolutely. I think besides our Vastu of our home, we need to have things to go with us. And to piggyback on what Grace was showing you with the QCI, I now have my clients the ones that either can't afford or don't purchase a QCI, just put your phone on top of your head every day and take about 5 to 8 breaths. This turns on every meridian, chakra, every gland and organ in your body. If it's the first few times, you take about 5 to 8 breaths. After that, you could probably turn yourself on in 2 or 3 breaths. And you are always healing yourself, because you have to make your home, work, where you sleep, in your car healed energetically to protect from all the chaos out there. But then what happens when you go to Las Vegas or Times Square, or you go to an event like a concert and you have 50,000 people with their phones, and the EMF of just setting up the stage itself, you don't want that to make you get sick. People go, oh, I went to this big party and then I got sick. Yeah, because there were a million devices there unprotected. That's why we wear our coins, our necklaces, our pendants. The local high school here, right around COVID time, put in 2 giant cell towers right in front of the school. So now that every child has a phone and a laptop, because now they're doing all their work on the laptops, they put 2 huge towers in. Each one of them had about 15 or 20 of those. I forget what they call them, those like rectangle looking 5G things. And across the street was the police department that also put a cell phone tower in. So if you're even driving through that neighborhood, or if you're in that school, or you stop by City Hall, you get hit. It's like little zaps, and we're playing whack-a-mole all day long. Like all these zaps are coming at you, and your body and your field need to be strong enough to zap, zap, zap. So my son wouldn't wear one of these, but we put it in a cute little bag and we pinned it inside his pants for his last year of high school. And now that's what he does at college, because it's even worse. There's even more devices, and they've now turned the dorms into Times Square with like blinking lights and all these like screens. So everywhere you go on a college or a university is just like zap, 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 zap. So protect yourself, build your biofield with nutrients, and protect your home. And that's how you can live in our toxic soup world and not have to stress about it. Some people think like, oh my God, you're so extreme. I'm actually not extreme. I live my life very much like and enjoy and do things, but I just have the underlying protection. It's just easy. I
Yeah,
call it a
one
solution.
thing we do to enhance what we learned with the Vastu and all the products, that all these products you can get through us as practitioners. You can always contact us. We can always help you with that. We took what we've learned also outside with QRA and what Dr. Marshall and our Vastu. We started protecting ourselves with geomancies. These are geomancies. These are basically people call them sacred images, but that's not a good word for them. Geomancies means they're mathematically encrypted. So if you can learn how to take this, stare at these, and take this in your pineal gland, it actually will help your energetics of your body. This is another geomancy. We have all different ones, and we paste these around our house. We have another device called a Spooky also, which actually does scalar energy, does rife frequencies, so you can generate frequencies. So when I generate scalar energy, like using a Spooky is another device that's out there. I actually started using these images to transmit these symbols into like supplements or into water. So you can encrypt the water and the materials with certain images. And you can do it with other oils, essential oils. We have a QC oil that's a blend of oils that we use also for actually this is called QC oil, that we use to help, do our balance out our energy, right? To do what they call downloads. It's like like we have a circuit in our body. So sometimes our circuits are open, they can't actually let energy flow. So that actually with the QC oil, or we do some things called mud packing, which is part of Vastu, that can actually open up the energy flow through traumas that we've had in our body, or just as things aren't flowing, or it's been encrypted, or we've gone through, like say, cell towers or scanners or whatever, right, that's out there, magnetic frequencies. So I'll pass on that, but I just want to show you these because I think these are very powerful items. This is called Alaria Rashatan, which came out of Galactic Science, and this is an enhanced version that came up with. It shows it like that. She's upside down. Sorry about that. Like this, but
it's even stronger that way.
Yeah, but there's many of these, right?
Well, however, since we said inverted, however, just as in Feng Shui and in Vastu, we follow the directions, we follow elements, but we have to remember, and that's what we have really learned, that the earth is tilted. So that the QRA helps in determining, because if we think this is the east, this is the west, this is the north, this is south. But remember, the earth is also distorted. But with the QRA, it helps us to know which ones.
Grace could tell you a story about, you talked about the bees. She did a podcast with another company that has some devices also, but they do it just for the bees. It's like it's like, I call it like a geomancy, but it's magnetic, made out of certain materials. But they use it for bees. They give it to beekeepers to help the bees be healthy and have more honey. And it's actually the same concept. It's a form of Vastu, but the bees like that, and they actually sell this to beekeepers.
Excellent.
Yeah, and as Julie, and then I'll pass it on to Danielle because I want Danielle to share something. But then what Julie said, that we're helping also the animals. It's really, we're helping our neighbors, because when you do this in your own apartment, first in your own body, the person next to you, they can feel the difference. Then in your home, so it basically, if you want to serve humanity, it starts with yourself. Okay, start with your home. Danielle, how about you share the challenges, that what you're doing with those smart watches, because I think it's not only you, but a lot of parents whose kids are in sports. These are really important for them to know. Okay, so
yeah. I can't say I've had any amazing breakthrough with those smartwatches yet. So a lot of people are walking around. The first thing I do when I see someone wearing so this is an EMF protector also. This is not a smartwatch, but one of the first things that I always say is take that off, especially because they're usually wearing it, right on the heart meridian of their body. And like, we've got to remove that thing. But gosh, yeah. So my boys, they compete in motocross, and it's really physically intensive. And so we're working on monitoring their physical well-being, making sure they're getting enough nutrients, but to monitor their heart rate and all of that stuff, the coach is like, we need a monitor. And I'm like, my kids don't wear those monitors. We don't wear those monitors. And so I've been trying to figure out how to get it. And it's hard. So, I've built up a concoction of geodots and Q discs and such. But the only problem is there's still not a way to actually keep them on the device without interrupting. Like my husband spent last weekend literally sewing material to try to figure out if he could get it sewed on correctly, if there was a way to keep it all connected. We're getting there. It was still a fail, but we're getting there. We're going to keep trying. I do think there is a lot of value in having that information, right? And being able to adjust our behavior and our lifestyle based upon the information. But it's also, it's a weight. It's kind of not worth the impact that it has on our body. And I think people, they get excited about having the information, and I get it. I really get it. But the flip side of that is, because we don't necessarily feel the damage that's taking place in our body, we just kind of let it go. But the thing is that damage over time, now we end up with health issues, and we may not even connect it to, oh, well, we've been sitting here disempowering our biofield for so long by wearing this smartwatch or this device on our wrist that's impacting every single cell in the body. So it's quite the tricky thing these days. And I haven't got the answer yet.
Do you use LMP? You use LMP on your?
Yeah, we used LMP paint also on there, and it was not enough. So you can get a device itself to test on a little bit, but its impact on the body itself is also a problem. So making sure that device tests well, the body tests well. It's been a fun ball of wax.
I have to go. Something came up last night for a client, a company that I work with, and I'm supposed to be on another meeting. So I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt everybody at all. I do wanted to mention the last thing that yesterday a client came in and she's like, I haven't seen her in 3 months. And she said, oh my gosh, I totally forgot to tell you, like 5 minutes before the end of the session, how sick she was and she had to take antibiotics twice, and that she just started wearing an Oura ring and an Apple Watch. I was like, really? So, anyway, the simplest solution, get a Q disc on every one of your devices. I just want to throw that out there to everybody. I'm sure Grace and everybody will fill you in on how to find any of us. We're all happy to help you. It is a real deal. Protect your environment, protect your body, protect your kids. I'm at julieehealth.com. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me. I love you guys. I love all your audience. I hope everyone has a healthy day, and I'm so sorry that I have to leave early today. My apologies.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
Yes, Danielle.
Yeah, well, I'll just follow up on what Julie said. I think a lot of this information is overwhelming. We've probably talked about some of the stuff that people are like, whoa, what? Wait, fix what? Wait, what's that pyramid? What's this? What's that? So I think it is important, Grace, that we leave everybody knowing and understanding that there are some very basic things that they can do, right? Number one, like Julie just said, is getting the Q disc on all of your cell phones, your laptops, your tablets, those things, getting those the geosyncs on your home and your smart meter, like those two things, super basic level. Of course, having a device that is always protective of yourself. I have a pendant here, as well as the watch, not the watch, the bracelet with Premier Research Labs that also protects the biofield as well. So really important just to have, I think, those three basics alone started. And then from there, we can start to expand and grow and everything else that we can work with and remediate in the environment.
How about the LMP, the liquid? I think that's very practical.
Oh, yeah. So the LMP is really practical because you just use that on all of the different wires and stuff in your house to further remediate everything.
Around the windows. We put them around the windows.
The windows, yeah, the corners.
Yeah. And for the ladies, the jewelry, at the back, you put it in there. And just as Julie mentioned, was it Julie? Yeah, who mentioned about the client who's been so sick. So if there's also a point where you are so sick, maybe lessen your jewelry, it's important to give yourself a break for these metal things, because the metals, they're very electrical conductive, right? So it really likes it. We become more a transmitter or a receiver for all these electrical things.
You know, it's interesting, Danielle, when you were living out on Long Island, we did that dentist's office. We remediated his whole office.
Yeah.
He was doing mercury amalgams and so forth. And he was a good dentist.
Removing mercury amalgams.
Yeah, when he was doing a mercury amalgam, taking them out, he actually had a room that was vacuum sealed that would suck the mercury out. But the energetics in the building weren't good. We tested with all his employees and tested him, and he found the weak energetics. But when we finished remediating the meter, the ground, the gravel around it, treating the soil, it tested on. And then Dr. Forbes even asked us while we were there to go out to Port Jefferson and remediate Port Jefferson. So we went out to the island where the ferry came in at Port Jefferson. We remediated that whole area.
Yeah. It made, I think it made an extraordinary difference. And, you know, the dentist is doing really, really well, because one of the things about your environment is it doesn't just impact our physical well-being. It impacts our emotional well-being, our prosperity, all of those things. And so, you know, from what I saw, his practice really, really took off from that point. So really interesting. You know, we did really good work on his office out there.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, and recently with another practitioner, shout out to her. She lives in New York. That's Irene. And so we also help her do that Vastu remediation for her apartment. And this was interesting for those, because she lives up on top of, I forgot what floor, but we were able to remediate it outside at the bottom, you know, in the outside a complex. So you could do so many things for your property or for your office. You know, I still remember one time then this time it was also with Irene, and Dr. Cortez was still alive at that time. We were in this little webinar, and one of the people who attended, when she held on to a granite, we brought a granite rock. We didn't have the ground yet. So we brought a granite rock, and the minute she held on to the granite rock, she said that's what she wanted to buy. So she right away she knew that, and she was gonna put it inside her apartment.
Yeah.
See, so for our health, it's important. Physical, mental, emotional relationship, it's crucial.
Yeah, it's interesting that when we started studying this quantum morphogenetic physics, there's a device called Arasha that was developed. It has to do with your energy, your consciousness, being able to tap into that, get your maximum potential, healing, and so forth. It uses scalar energy, generates scalar energy. His coils in it that actually create the field around it too. A little bit like the concept of Royal Rife did, but going deeper than that. And anyway, the athletes are starting to use that now. They have some bare knuckle fighting group that started, and they started going to that and getting treated to help their performance. But it's a form of energy also, enhancing their energy field around them. So all this stuff, you know, like I said, sounds woo, but you know, we do see results, and people do have results with it. Like I said, some people have feel it's stronger. Some people, not enough, but they may not even know. Like Julie said, they may not even know that it's affecting their health and their feel around it, even emotionally. May not even affect them emotionally. They might be affected, and they don't even know that that's causing a problem.
Yeah, I think we're moving to a space and time where people are becoming much more aware of these different things. And I don't know that it falls into the woo-woo realm anymore as we move into that space, but we're finding more and more, you know, scientific data to support the things that maybe we were seeing clinically or you know, had before the anecdotal stuff, but now there's more and more research that's actually showing why these things are taking place. I still think we're missing a comprehensive understanding and language around some of the things that are happening, but they're all just the mechanics of the universe, I think.
Yeah, and talking about language and really realizing and using the right language is also important because each letter in this alphabet is also a frequency. So, when we address what we want to express, that's important. And so, and anything more that we is pressing that we can share. Uh, the most important thing is your health is precious.
Mhm.
I don't know about you. I I've never for I didn't have also a health story to tell that brought me to this because I've been healthy. Other than when I was a child, I had a TB. Okay, but so but being aware of these things kept me from going into the deep rabbit hole. All right. So, but if you're in the rabbit hole right now, it's because you haven't addressed certain things and you need to really get off that rabbit hole. And there are ways. You just need to be connected to the right practitioner that resonates to you. So I'll make sure that if you have to re-listen to this again and reach out to whoever resonates to you, let us know. When it feel free and email us. Okay, because although we kept mentioning about PRL, but PRL entrusted these tools to the practitioners who've been around, who've been, doing this, living and embodying all of this. So reach out to the practitioners because you won't see this on their websites. Okay, but we are grateful that it is around for us and to endorse to you as well. And let's see. And definitely don't be discouraged with everything that's going on, the technology and everything. Oh, and with all the political situation, this also helps us. Okay, when you are energetically conscious and mindful and you have your tools, nothing much can make you despair or be desperate or end up in a like you're depressed. Okay, so and if you so Danielle, anything more you want to say for a few last words, and George, and then we could invite to all the different websites.
Yeah, I think you covered it all. I mean, I think that the biggest piece for people to remember is just to be in action, right? And not just take in information, but actually take and do something with that information, because knowledge is power, but it's powerless without the action that needs to be taken on the knowledge. So even if the first thing they do is just take off the smartwatches, if that's the first thing that goes, and then start to look at all the other stuff, then we've done a good job, and you've taken something away here today. So take something and create some action based on something that you heard that will drive your health forward, because our health is all we have.
Yeah, I think do your own research. Don't take anything we say for granted. Do your own research. Check it out. There's especially now with AI out there. You get a lot of help even from AI. Some of this stuff may not agree with, but it's learning, and you'll find a lot more scientific information to support a lot of things that we were talking about. And the other thing is even PRL. That they practice the Vastu part. They're even learning. They're always coming up with new things. Nothing is stagnant. It's always a learning process. Things are changing around us all the time. World's changing. So, you always have to be aware, be awake. Be awake and aware of what's happening around you, and that these are all tools that can be used, right?
So let me, for the audio listeners, let's for you can get in touch with George Chirco. We share the same website at graceasagra.com, and we can do in-person consultation in New Jersey, New York City, Philadelphia, and surrounding areas, and also virtual. Okay, and so for Danielle, go ahead, Danielle, do it.
So our website is www.southbaywellness.com, and we are a fully virtual practice.
And for Julie, I mentioned earlier, you can get in touch with her at www.juliehealth.com, and she is in the Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach and surrounding areas, or virtual. as well. Okay, so you just reach out. We are here for you, and this we consider our service to humanity that starts from us.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone, and
Thank
do share with
Take
other
care,
people,
Danielle.
and support all my guests, and then like, share, or donate. Buy me a coffee, as they say. Okay, take care,
Take care.
and be well.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Let's see. This
Good.